Bill Courtney is the former U.S. ambassador to Kazakhstan and Georgia. I spoke to him earlier from Washington, D.C. Bill, the European Union has announced these more stringent sanctions if Russia does not do something to help de-escalate the tension as well as facilitate the investigation into the shooting down of Malaysian Air Flight number 17. So my question is, does these new round of sanctions, even if they're put into place, go far enough?
These sanctions that were agreed today by the European Union really only deal with individuals, and later this week the European Union is supposed to make known additional numbers of individuals, I would imagine in the dozens, of folks who should be sanctioned. But once again, there's a promise to move on to sectoral sanctions that could affect broad sectors like the financial, energy, or industrial, defense industrial area, but no decision has been taken on those.
Yes, I understand it. They've asked an executive committee or something similar to that to prepare those types of sanctions. But here's the question. Does the EU have the stomach to impose sanctions like that?
Well, the European countries should be rallying around the Dutch now, because this is a terrible tragedy to have killed so many citizens of the Netherlands, as well as citizens of other countries. But there are diverging interests. Italy, for example, has a lot of business interests in Russia and has traditionally been closer to Russia. Germany receives 30% of its natural gas from Russia. So coming to grips with those varying issues is a lot harder than making sanctions here. Over there, all the European Union governments have to agree by consensus. We don't have that here. The president can decide most of those things.
Yeah, and we've even seen the disagreement even in France's decision to go ahead with the delivery of a warship to Moscow. This certainly hurts the EU's position in terms of putting pressure on Putin, doesn't it?
Yes. The French are almost complete in construction of an amphibious assault ship for Russia that Russia ordered after the August 2008 invasion of Georgia, when it determined that its amphibious ship capabilities were too weak and that they couldn't build that capability themselves. So they ordered two from France. One is almost complete. There are 400 Russian sailors now in France training on that ship. So Francois Hollande, the French president, wants to go ahead and send that to Russia. But today, for the first time, he allowed that perhaps a second ship, which the Russians had not yet paid for, might be postponed.
So let me just ask you about Putin's resolve. He's been very defiant during this entire crisis, of course, washing his hands, stepping back, saying that he has almost nothing to do with what the pro-Russian separatists are doing. However, is this downplaying a sea change enough to force him to soften his stance?
It could be. It's still a little unclear how they're going to play it. The Russians and the Kremlin in particular are concerned about how much Western intelligence knows about what happened. Does Western intelligence figure out that it was just the separatists who shot it down, or might Western intelligence organizations have learned that actual Russian troops under the Russian command and control system shot the plane down? That's still a little bit unclear. The Ukrainian government is saying they have evidence now from communications intercepts that it was actually Russian troops. And the Ukrainians thus far have been fairly reliable in the things they've said publicly, but there needs to be more evidence to sort that out. I think Putin is waiting to see how much the West knows about what actually happened, and Putin is waiting to see how strong the additional sanctions are going to be before deciding what to do. In the meantime, the press that are controlled by the government in Russia have been putting forth various conspiracy theories, including the idea, which is laughable, that all the passengers on the Malaysian Airlines were dead before they even took off from Amsterdam.
Yeah, those old tricks of diversion. I'm sure it's not lost on you or other experts like you that Putin has been strangely silent during this, with the exception of accusing the Ukrainian government being behind the shooting down of MH17.
Yes. Now, he has not claimed that the Ukrainian government actually fired the missile, but they have claimed that the Ukrainian government had this Buk anti-missile system in the area. But in fact, Western intelligence sources have said publicly that such a Ukrainian system was not there. So the Kremlin hasn't really pushed that line too hard. I think they're just waiting to see how much they're going to have to admit to. How much are they going to have to do to come clean, if you will, to lessen the international pressure, which has mounted very quickly over the last couple of days on the Kremlin.
All right, Bill Courtney, helping us understand it all from Washington. Thanks, Bill. It's good to talk to you.
Thank you, Debbie.